In this video I want to show you how you can go about downloading and installing both R and RStudio. You have to download and install both, as well as how to install some of the initial packages that we use in this ebook. So here I am on the ebook, and I'm going to navigate to Chapter 2, Step-by-Step Instructions. It's here at the bottom. And the first thing you want to do, number one, is download and install R. That should be the first step. And you can find a list of sites that host the R software here. So I'll click on that. And you'll see that it's hosted in a number of countries, usually at universities. I'm going to scroll down to the US, and you can honestly choose any of these. I'll just pull from Duke's site, and you can see that you can download R either in Linux, Mac OS X, or for Windows. I have a PC, so I'll click on Windows. And then I am freshly installing R here, so I'm just going to install R for the first time. And download R 4.0.2 for Windows. Once that's done downloading, you can just click on it. And we want to allow it to make changes, so hit yes. English, yes. Go ahead and read that. Next. I generally would recommend letting it install where it wants to by default, because that's where RStudio is going to be looking for it later. You can choose whichever pieces you want here. I don't need 32-bit files. I'm just going to do 64-bit files. Do you want to customize the startup options? I would say no. And go ahead and let it select a start menu folder. Go ahead and hit yes, next. I just go with all the defaults here, next, and then let it install. And click finish. So R is installed. I would actually recommend going and checking, make sure it's there and that you can open it up. So if you scroll down and find R, you should be able to open it up. And this is what R looks like. It's pretty bare bones, but that's why I tend not to operate within R itself. I prefer RStudio. But for RStudio to work, you need R installed. Okay, so we can go ahead and close R. And now we want to go back to our ebook, step-by-step instructions. And next step is download and install the free version of RStudio Desktop. And you'll just go down to the free one here, the desktop, not the server, and download RStudio for Windows in my case. If you have a different operating system, you can choose the one that you use. Many of you are on Macs. You would do that one. Okay, now that that is done downloading, we can click on it. Allow it to make changes, yes. And again, we can just use the default settings. I would again recommend letting it choose its own destination folder. And just go ahead and do install. When it's done, just select finish, and it should be installed. I always like to make a hot button for it at the bottom of my screen, so if you want to do the same, you could search for it. It should be in an RStudio folder, and right here, and if you right click there, I can go to more, open the file location, and I can pin to taskbar. And then I have easy access to it. Okay. But let's go ahead and open up RStudio. And again, you will have wanted to install R first, because RStudio won't work if R isn't previously installed. Okay. Get rid of some of the stuff that was left over from a previous iteration. Yours may not look like this to start. I've set mine to a darker background. If you want to change your the color of your interface, you can go to Tools, Global Options, and go to Appearance. Yours may start off as something more like Classic and something a little bit more like this. Okay. But if you want to change, you can sort of search through the different options. I sort of settled on Modern and Material as my color scheme. Okay. There's also a way where you can format where you want the different quadrants to be. So you basically have 4 quadrants in RStudio. So if you go to Global Options and Pane Layout, one is Source. In the Source quadrant, you're going to have things like our scripts. You're going to have previews of your data sets. I prefer to have that up in my left upper quadrant. Your console is in fact R. It's where you can type in commands directly. It's also where you'll see most of the statistical output that you produce. The environment history quadrant is the quadrant that'll show which objects you have in your session. That'll include data sets, or if you create an object containing regression results or a graph, anything like that will show up in your environment. It also has a history tab where you can look at previous commands. And then the files, plots, and packages quadrant, usually I mainly use that for the plots because that's where graphs will pop up. But you can also check on your packages and see which ones are installed and attach new ones or detach others, things like that. Okay. Again, if you want to change the order, you can just kind of change things. It'll move things around. Okay. So that's how you can get things set up. And there you can sort of see the different quadrants. And more stuff will pop up as we begin to use that. Okay, so the last thing we want to do is install some packages that we'll be using as part of the chapters in this ebook. So I'm going to go to Chapter 3 now, Generic R Scripts, and I'm going to download Packages Installation Commands. Again, as you know, R is an open source software program that allows users to generate different packages. Those packages contain functions that increase the capability of R and RStudio to do different things. And so we need to install those packages before we can make use of those. So I've got it downloaded. I can just click open it up and it pops up. And here it popped up again in the source quadrant. And you can see that notes are denoted with a hashtag symbol. And then you've got your various installation commands. And all I need to do is highlight all of those and hit run. Now it's going to take many minutes for this to download because I'm not just installing these packages, but it will also install a number of packages that those packages are dependent on. So it's sort of going to download a broader ecosystem of packages at this point. So it might take 10 minutes or more. And you can see all the unzipping and things like that. And so that's when you know it's working. All the packages have been installed at this point. I will make note that probably took 5 to 10 minutes. And at times, sometimes it looks like it stalls. Just be patient and it'll pick back up. It just takes a while for some pieces to install. And you'll know when it's done when you get to this little prompt. So that's how you install all the packages. And down here in the bottom, my bottom quadrant, if I click on packages, you can see all the ones that are now available to RStudio. It doesn't mean that they're engaged. If they don't have a check mark in front of them, it means that yes, I've installed them, but they're not loaded into the session. So if you ever need any one, that's when you use the library command to bring it into the session. One other thing, once a package is installed, you never have to install it again, but you do need to do sort of regular maintenance on it. And so if you go to Tools and check for package updates, it'll occasionally go through and check for updates to any packages, and you can select all and install updates. And I do this maybe once a week or so on to make sure that all the packages remain updated. So that's the only kind of maintenance you need to do. Okay, hope that helps.